you. Okay. Yeah, I heard some alarm bell ringing, which was kind of telling me now it's time to start. Good morning. Thank you very much for being brave and up at 10 in the morning to talk about data journalism. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michaela Cancela. I have been working at Agence France Presse for more than 20 years, and a year ago I joined the Google News Lab to be a teaching fellow for a year. Then I will go back to Agence France Presse. So I'm really happy to talk about data journalism on a local level because I really think it's part of our future. I really think it's part of making journalism thrive. But first, let me just run this video, which is about the Google Initiative. The Google Initiative is the umbrella for all what Google does to support the news industry. Sorry. Now.
Access to reliable quality information should be a right of anybody, wherever they live.
Today, the journalism industry faces many challenges.
Readership has become more fragmented, and in many ways, the experience of journalism has become more fragmented.
How can news organizations remain relevant in the digital age?
The traditional world of news media is shifting ever more quickly.
70% of people can't distinguish between a real story and fake news.
Disinformation is on the rise. Trust in media is falling. Journalists are having to do more with less.
A lot of these solutions will come from the journalism industry and the tech industry working together.
So we're announcing the Google News Initiative, our effort to enable journalism to thrive in a digital age. It will enable new models for sustainable journalism, elevate quality journalism, and ensure that technology allows journalists to do their jobs even better.
The solution to the challenges that the industry is facing has to come from the right mix of journalism and technology.
I'm really optimistic about the future of journalism. We just need to find the best ways for it to be able to flourish.
I think there will always be a hunger for high-quality journalism.
I think it's never been more important for us to work together.
And it's only through collaboration that we can do journalism in new and powerful ways. Because when journalism succeeds, we all do better.
Should be a right of anybody.
So, I've heard that here in Perugia there is a contest among some of the organizers for the best T-shirt. That might have been the best T-shirt in a few years ago. I think this is not true anymore, which is really, really good news. Data journalism is everywhere. Well, you're here. How many of you are already involved in data journalism in some way? Okay, it's good to know. And how many of you hope to be involved in data journalism? Okay, great. So, just so that you know, these have been created a few years ago, and last year there were more than 600 applications for Data Journalism Awards. This year I know there are lots of applications already. The deadline is tomorrow, so if anybody wants to go for it. Yeah, I don't know how to... Yeah, okay, thank you. And this is a survey done by PolicyViz that shows that as of now, I think this data was actually from 2017, so probably the figures have increased since then. 42% of reporters are using data to tell their stories. This was a survey conducted actually in 4 countries: the UK, Great Britain, UK, United States, France, and Germany. And 51% of news organizations had dedicated data journalists. So it's progressing, but I think we can still do a lot more. And many other people think we can do more. More than half of the respondents want their organizations to use more data to tell their stories. It's a very good moment, and it's a very important moment to actually focus on data journalism, because it's about facts. And, you know, we are in a post-truth area, so it could be very good to insist on facts rather than on he said, she said journalism, that you can actually, you don't need to do that anymore. I mean, sources can just speak directly to the public. So we really need to be there to not just report what people said, but report what we think the truth could be after doing a thorough investigation. And this is what data journalism is also about. Why go local? Why talk about that local data journalism? Well, some of you might have seen this, this map. This is a map about news deserts in the United States. You know, at the beginning of the 20th century in the United States, there were 500 cities with more than 2 or 3 newspapers, okay? Now there are only 10. This is happening everywhere, not necessarily local newspapers closing, but local newspapers having economic problems, having to, you know, get rid of staff and seeing their print sales going down. So we are all looking for a new model. And a new model is not only a business model. You know, a lot of people are talking about paywalls, for example, to try to have another revenue. But a new model has to be also about content. We have to give people information they need, they care about. We have to give people valuable information, and maybe then they will be ready to subscribe, or they will be ready to pay. Actually, even if there are more news deserts, this is what people care about. This is a survey done by the Reuters Institute in 2017, and as you see, the first thing people care about is what happens in their region or their town. And if you take it to, you know, other levels, like, for example, crime, security, health, all of that has a local component to it. So, you know, if we think about what people care about, this has a lot to do with local journalism and also local data journalism. This is another study by the Reuters Institute, and it's a recent one. People find those stories more relevant that affect their personal lives. So if you take this to local data journalism, this is one of the first local data journalism stories. And it shows very well what I just said. So this guy, Dr. Jon Snow, he wasn't a journalist, he was an epidemiologist. And he was investigating about a cholera outbreak. And he, you know, at the time in London, people thought it had something to do with the air. So this guy went on, started talking with local residents, made an investigation on the ground, and he mapped the deaths due to cholera in London. And he found out this was, you know, concentrated in a specific area. And after a while, he found out this was related to a water pump. Well, this is exactly what local data journalism is about. It's finding the local data that really could have an impact on people's lives and that really could have an impact on local policies. If we go to this is another example from now. This was an investigation done with open data by El País, and it shows bike accidents in Madrid. So just take it to your level. Would you care to know where there are more accidents in your city? Yes, right? So, and if you know where it is, you might now pressure local authorities to do something about infrastructures to protect yourself when you're riding your bike in your city, right? And you can apply this to so many things. Like, I'm going to move to Paris in 3 months, and I was trying to find the best neighborhood for my kid to get a proper education, and at the same time, the best neighborhood in terms of rent prices. So I was really eager to find a map where I could correlate both things, like where is the best place to live in terms of rent and in terms of education. This is local data journalism. Would I be ready to give €2 for an article about that? That would give me that information? Definitely, maybe even 5, right? The good news is that there is more and more data available. This is a map done by the European Data Portal about open data maturity in Europe. So as you see, there are, more than half of the countries are now either fast trackers or trendsetters, which means that actually they have open data portals, and they have a policy that is really organized so that you can go and find data. But the question is now, who goes and looks for that data and analyzes it, which is called data mining, right? It's a golden mine, but you have to go down and get that gold. And for this session, I have been looking at projects, and I found out that in a way there are 2 paths to get there. If we talk about data journalism, there is one path that is top-down, I would call it top-down, and there is another path that is bottom-up. That means that people are on the ground finding the data on their very, municipality, and maybe they can even share it with other people in other places, so we get a bigger context. So the top-down approach would be huge organizations that try to find data sets, that clean them, and that put them at the disposal of local newsrooms to work on them. Why? Because, as you know, there is still a need for skills in the newsrooms to actually get to do data journalism. So they kind of start doing the job for them, and then they let them work with it. So the first example would be this one, Radar. All of the examples I'm going to show you now are really recent. It's very interesting. It's like in the 2 past years. It's a trend. And Radar is the most sophisticated of them. It's actually about automation as well, and I'm going to tell you how it works. So Radar is a project that started in 2017. It was set up by a local journalist. I mean, he has a background of local journalism. His name is Gary Rogers. And basically what Gary Rogers thought was like, oh my God, there is so much data I can access now, and I can take it to a local level. And how can I, create a business with this? So he had a grant from the Digital News Initiative, and he set up this company that basically what they do is they get the data. Okay, so they monitor data releases in obviously subjects that are important for the people, like housing, health, security, crime, social issues. So they monitor the data. Once they get huge data sets that they think could be interesting at a local level as well, they break down to a local level. All these slides have been shared with me by Gary. So if you look at this one, for example, as you see, they're monitoring underweight and overweight. And they have a very easy system to visualize what is above the average or under the average, you know, by county in the United Kingdom. So very fast they're able to see the local stories. Okay, so from there, that's the automation part. They have, with automation, created some kinds of templates that allow them to actually produce several hundred stories on just one data set and make it local. And this is the result. They have made front pages in many, many places in the United Kingdom since in the past year. So Radar is actually a joint venture between the Press Association and a company, a startup called Herbs Media. And right now, they are able to produce more than 7,000 stories a month. So just to give you an example, this is what they would do. So for the data set about overweight, as you see, they have, you know, they're able to say for Peterborough that the children from most deprived neighborhoods are twice as likely to be obese. For Cambridge, 1 in 3 primary school children are overweight. So they really are producing relevant stories for the people locally. So this is the most sophisticated example because basically they're doing all the work for the local newsrooms. Then the local newsroom can go and add local context to it, but they're just giving, in a way, a prêt-à-porter product, right? This is the second example, which is very interesting as well. The AP actually, the difference between the AP and what Radar does is that Associated Press, they work on huge data sets, but they don't do all the work for the newsrooms. I think it can be good as well, because if you do it that way, you're at some point obliging newsrooms to start getting data skills and getting really personally involved in them. So they work on a data set, they get it ready, they clean it, and then they make it available for their clients via a platform called Data World. And when it's really complicated, they give them a webinar for like 1 hour to explain to them how to use it. So they will also, so what they do is actually they work on a national story. For example, this one about students that are most racially isolated. So this is basically the national visualization of it. And then local newsrooms can take it to their local aspect or angle. So for example, here you have the national visualization, and here you have the story that was done in Maine, right? And people like the stories. What the AP said is that about this project is that they definitely have a lot of impact. And we saw before with the Radar project, you know, it's not by chance that they made it to more than 300 publications on the first page, right? Then the second model will be top-down, but with some collaboration. That means you have a huge umbrella organization that's trying to help you, but basically what it's doing is having people work together from different levels and not just give everything to the local ones. This is one project also that started late last year. I think in October, it was fully launched in October 2018 at Stanford. So it's called Big Local News, and this one about open policing was I would say their pilot project, the first project they worked on. And basically what they do is the same. They try to find the data, they clean it, but they are getting the data from different sources, including from people ready to collaborate at a local level to provide that data. So in this case, what they were trying to do is to find out how police officers behaved at traffic stops to see if there was some kind of bias. And this is another one. I'm not going to get into the details because I know there is a conference if you're interested. This afternoon there is a panel at 5 with the director of Bureau Local. So this is also, it also has been supported by the Google News Initiative, and it's also about collaboration at a local level. This is one in Italy. It's not only journalists who participated in this, but it's also about collaborating to get the data at a local level. It's about confiscation of I don't find the word in English now, of estates to the mafia. And, you know, in Italy, you will probably explain better than me this, but there is a law that says that you need to use them for social good. So this is a way to monitor if all those estates and things confiscated to the mafia are actually being used for social good. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about Google. I'm here for that as well. So there are many things you can find on Google to actually do data journalism. There are many online tools, easy to use, and with which you will slowly get your skills better and better, right? So the first one is Google Trends. I want to talk about Google Trends because it's big data applied, could be big data applied to local interest. How many of you know Google Trends? A lot, so good. So I'm not gonna get into lots of details, not to bore you. So just Google Trends is actually the tool that lets you see what people are searching on Google search. So you can, what is very interesting about Google Trends is that you can also extract local data out of it, okay? So, because there are more and more searches every day, so there is more and more data being provided. And so, for example, in Italy, the word feminism, this is how it's been used in the past 5 years, not used but searched. And as you see, slowly but steadily, it's growing to the point that, you know, the moment where it was more search was recently, actually. And if you want to see the local part of it, you can go to interest by sub-region, and you will see where in Italy people are searching this word more. So it's a fantastic tool to actually get a taste of local interests for several things. Of course, it can be, for example, politicians. It can be social issues like feminism. It can be also to look what people are looking for in your own region. So, for example, Perugia. I typed the word Perugia to see what people were searching in relation with Perugia in Umbria. This was 2 days ago, and as you see, good news, they are searching for Festival de Giornalismo as well. Google Trends also has a data team that creates nice visualizations. For example, when you have elections in the United States, this was one very nice about what people were looking for on election day. And this is another one done about the most searched UK leaders on Google in the elections in 2015. If you, at some point, you're in a newsroom and you want to use those visualizations, you can do it. You can monitor them on the Google Trends page, or you can follow the Google Trends Twitter account, and you will see what are the latest visualizations. You can actually embed them in your page. Google also provides open source datasets on many of its projects, and among them are all the Google Trends datasets. What I mean by that is that if you want to create your own visualizations, you can actually go get the data there. Okay. And now the bottom-up approach. And that's the one where I'm going to show you actually all the tools you can you can use to go there, to get the local data. First, Google has just created a dataset search, special search bar. So if you, okay, and where is it? It's here. So if you type Google dataset search, it's in beta still, and you type a word, it will connect you to data providers related exactly to that word you're looking for. So it's taking you directly there. Do you know the command file type ... .xls? Yep. This is another way to actually really go get data sets directly on a subject. So you will type your subject, Calabria, and then you would put file type ... .xls, because it's going to tell Google to only find documents that are in that format. Okay. It's very important, actually. You can do many things, especially if you live in a decentralized country. There are many, many things you can do at a local level. Why? Because, you know, if you look at all the subnational governments that exist, all of these are sources where you can find local data that it's probably not even known at a national level. So your job could be very important, especially if then you decide to collaborate with other data journalism around the country. I'm going to give you a very simple example. A couple of weeks ago, I read an article in Spain about the fact that the mortality rate for cancer in Spain in some areas was 180% higher than in other European countries. And there was this doctor interviewed who said, well, first, you know, it's very difficult to have a take on the situation, because in Spain we have 17 different health systems, because there are 17 different regions, and they don't always share the policies. And for example, there are regions in Spain where you can access some medicines, and others where you can't. So imagine if you are able to share this kind of information with other local journalists. It will help them pressure their own local health authorities. So that's why also data journalism at a local level could be very important, because you will be able to access data that no one else knows about, right? And you're close to the sources. So you might know them by first name. So go to the sources, ask them to give you the data, and ask them to do it in a format that you can work with. You probably know that the PDF is the enemy of data journalists, right? Because you cannot really work with PDF easily. So ask them to give you the information in Excel, in spreadsheets, in CSV, which are all formats that you can then take to a spreadsheet to actually analyze it easily. This is a very good example of what you can do at a local level. I have been touring Spain, giving data journalism workshops in newsrooms, and this one is done by a local journalist who actually is not a data journalist, and he wanted to write about old people in jails in Galicia, because Galicia is a place in the north of Spain where the population is aging very fast, and he wanted to work on that issue. So, of course, you know, he asked for data to the judicial institutions, to the prisons. They wouldn't give him the data, and in the end, he went to his traditional sources. In this case, it was syndicates in the police. And they gave him the spreadsheets. Why? Because he was close to those sources. So this is the kind of local data journalism you can do, because you know the source's first name. And he did this great story about the situation in jails for the elderly in Galicia. So what are the tools that you can use? First, the GRAL, the spreadsheet. How many of you are using spreadsheets now? So yeah, there is still some things to do about it. I have to confess that 2 years ago I wasn't using spreadsheets, and I'm telling you this because we are kind of afraid. Some of the journalists, of course, those of my generation more. We went into journalism thinking that we could forget basically about math for the rest of our lives. And I'm afraid to say that no, we can't, and we must get interested in math again. And well, the good news is that it's really becoming easier and easier. If you try to get a little bit interested in statistics, there are lots of tutorials online that you can use. And if you go to Google Sheets, I use Google Sheets not because I have been working for Google, but because I think it's an easy way to access spreadsheets. You will be able to do a lot. Here is the address to learn about it. And basically what a spreadsheet does, not only Google's, but what a spreadsheet does is that it's going to save your time to analyze the data, to actually, for example, find out what are the numbers above the average or under the average, like we saw in the example from radar, right? It will also do other things like scraping. Scraping means getting data from tables, for example, on the internet, and with very simple formulas, or taking actually your data to a map, combining it with Google Maps. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm completely at your disposal later today if you want me to show you some details about this. So for example, if you go to Wikipedia and you want to take this to a table, there is a very simple formula to do it. So once you will have this, you will be able to analyze the numbers. So for example, if we are looking at movies and we want to see which one is the real blockbuster, in 2 minutes, you take it to a table and then you go to column D here. Let's see when it comes. It will be there. So you see column D, so you would select it, and you can analyze it with a simple click, going to Explore. It will tell you right away which one was the blockbuster. And this is one of the great things about spreadsheets, right? If you have a PDF and you have to be looking at pages and pages of documents, you might lose a lot of time. With a spreadsheet, you just do a click and you will have right away the higher number, the lower number, the average, etc., and all these formulas that you need to do a little bit of data journalism. So if you take it, for example, to one of the examples we talked about, mortality rate for cancer, you could have a long list of hospitals in a country or in your own area, and with a spreadsheet, you will know right away where the death rate is higher, or with a couple of formulas you could find it. And from there you can go and do really good local journalism. You will go to that hospital and try to find out what's going on, right? So this is the formula to import a table to a spreadsheet. If you want to take a picture. So this formula, you have to paste it into on the top of the spreadsheet. So you would put the URL here. So as you see, then the element, and then the element means I'm importing a table. I will write table there, okay? And then the order of the element. If the table is on the top, it will probably be 1. So, so you would take the URL of this, as you see. See, Wikipedia, and then we have table, and then we have 1. You can also go to Open Refine. This is a more sophisticated tool to actually clean your data and fix typos in your data. How many of you know what clean your data means? No? So when you get data, many times at some point there is some kind of error. For example, if we're looking at the sales for movies we saw before, it would mean that in the column with the numbers, at some point, for example, instead of having 1,250 tickets, instead of a comma, at some point you will have a point, for example, and this is going to make it impossible for you to analyze which is the highest and which is the lowest, because there is an error in the table. And this happens a lot. So one of the things that drive data journalists crazy is that they need to clean that. They need to find out the errors in spreadsheets before starting to analyze them. So Open Refine is one of the tools that you can use to actually detect easily those errors. Then you can also use Google Forms to collect data yourself. You all know Google Forms, probably? Yes? Well, there is a very nice thing about Google Forms is that if you, for example, want to collect, let's say you want to know how people consider cleaning in the street of your city by neighborhood, right? So you would put your questions in a form and you can ask them to rate it from 1 to 5, okay? By neighborhood. And then it would take it to a spreadsheet directly. So you will be able to analyze right away, with one click again, which is the neighborhood that has the best rating, which one has the least. And then you can go into qualitative questions and ask them why, what's the problem, and it will directly create for you also the visualization. So it could be very practical to actually get data in your community. And then I want to talk about Flourish because it's not by Google, but it has been supported by Google, and it's a fantastic way to start doing data visualization because it's a very easy way. You don't need to code. You have lots of templates. I'm going to show you how it works, and you can start working on it without having basically any data skills. So we're going to go to Flourish directly. So if you're interested in Flourish, you just need to sign in with a Gmail account. This was created by two guys in London who worked with a mathematician for like a year to create templates so that you just didn't need to code. So you sign in. This is the main page, and you would go to New. And, okay, I'm going to make it a little bigger. So all these, as you see, are templates that are ready for you to use. I'm going to show you what you can do. So, for example, let's go to, we have elections, so I'm going to take one for elections. Where is it? Okay, this one is very popular. It's, if you're following candidates and you want to show a nice visualization about how they're going in the polls, not only it is a visualization, but it is also an animation. So this is what it would look like. So the only thing you need to know is to actually access the template and add the data you want to add, your personal data. So if we're looking at local candidates, what you just need to go, so this is the way it would like. You need to go here, and you can do two things. You can either copy the way this is structured, so create a spreadsheet that would have in column A the names of the parties. In column B, you will link the pictures that we have seen, for example, to a Dropbox or to your own computer. Then in column C, D, E, you would put the values, okay? So these are the This is the result, but this is for example, the projections. So if you just copy the structure and then you import it to Flourish, it will create this data visualization for you. So let's imagine that instead of having so many columns, because as you see here, of course, it's for several months, you only have 4 months, then you would just need to only fill 4 columns. And here, if we have only until column F, you will change this here on the side. Instead of writing C to L, you would just do C to F, okay? You would just need to change that. The other way, if you really hate spreadsheets, you can't deal with them, is just to do it manually. So here, instead of writing CDU, I would write, I don't know, whatever you want. PD, for example, okay? And here, I would just fill it manually. And then you go to Preview, and here on the right, there are many things you can personalize, and this is why actually people who work on data visualization like Flourish a lot, because they're very nice templates in terms of colors, in terms of possibilities to actually personalize. So for example, we can go here to the colors, and if you click on here, there are all kinds of palettes that you can use. For example, this one, or you can even go down. I'm going to take this a little bit smaller. Okay, you can go down and actually choose exactly the colors you want. So in this case, you will go to Edit Color Palette. And you see that the first line is in green. Well, if you don't want green, you just click, and you can choose another color here, okay? It's really easy to use. That's why it's been quite popular right now. And it works the same way for all templates. You just need to copy the structure that is behind or even fill directly on the page. Once you're done, so let's take this one, for example. Once you're done, you will go to Export and Publish. And so you can actually either download the HTML, download the image, or embed your work in a blog, in a digital edition of a newspaper, okay? So, for example, in the case of Brazil, you see here, they already have the geographic coordinates for each region, so you don't have to worry about this. This is also very important because sometimes with maps, you need to get some skills to be able to use data files that already have the geographical coordinates in them. And this is already done for you. The only important thing is that you really respect the structure that you see behind these templates. And this means also being careful with, the words. Like if here in your own spreadsheet you make a mistake and instead of writing acre you write, there is a misspelling, it's not going to recognize it. So you just have to make sure you really stick to the structure. Then there are lots of new things that Flourish is developing. These guys are really creative, and there is one I really like that is just come out. You can do these things as well. Is this? It's called Talkies. Where is it? Here. I think here is the...
So let's say you have a dataset with information about every country in the world. Flourish Stories have always allowed you to make this data into a dynamic, interactive presentation. But now you can also add autoplay and an audio track to your slides. It's a new kind of story we're calling Talkies here at Flourish HQ. And in fact, you're watching one right now. While at first they may seem like videos, Talkies are still interactive for the user. They're also faster to load and responsive for different screen sizes. To make a talkie of your own, just open the story editor and enable audio/autoplay. Next, upload an audio file, or if you're happy for your story to play silently, skip this step. Then, set the duration of each slide in the right-hand corner of the editor. And finally, go back to the beginning and press play. Feel free to use multiple visualization types and to create animations between datasets or metrics to focus your audience on one point at a time. So start with your data, visualize it, and add audio to tell your data story.
So I really invite you to go check and actually try, because it's really easy actually. If you start practicing, this is how I learned what I know about data journalism, is just by practicing on a weekly basis at least. Try to create your projects. You can also, with Flourish, actually create stories, which will be what you've seen here. In the main page, I'm going to go to the main page again. So, Flourish. When you sign in, you can choose, instead of new here, you can choose stories. So this is going to create, you can create several slides so the people to tell your story. So, like a photo gallery. So you will tell your story in 2, 3, 4 parts. And it is also a nice way to do it. Another example. This was created by Simon Rogers. Actually, Simon Rogers is the data editor at Google. He used to be at The Guardian. He's like a god for data journalism. And he's created this easy tool called diagrams to visualize. You can find it actually on the Google News Initiative platform, where you have lots of tools that you can learn. And this is it. This was just launched yesterday. It's the datajournalism.com platform, where you can find all kinds of courses as well. So go there if you want to get skills. It's really well done. And I invite you to read as well the Data Journalism Handbook. You can find it on the datajournalism.com platform. It's really inspiring. And this is it. If you have questions, please, I'm here for you. Thank you very much. Questions? No? Yeah, sure. Which one? The data journalism? This one? The handbook. This is the handbook. You can find it online. So how many of you have done some kind of project at a local level? 2? What?
No, to be fair, we are from Malta. I think it's quite hard to do a local Hi.
Yeah.
We are from Malta, and to be fair, I think, in my opinion,
yes,
there's no facts about this, so probably it's just my opinion. But I think it's quite hard to do a local news kind of aspect from Malta, because we are so little, and I think it wouldn't be that relevant. We have local news for Malta, for the whole country, but we are too small to have it per village or per city. You know what I mean?
But sometimes this is really about collecting the data yourself. For example, there was a fantastic project by Reuters. Actually, AFP did the same, but Reuters did it very well, about a refugee camp. I think it was Rohingyas. And they just went locally. They talked with the NGOs and went locally to get really relevant data about how people were living, like how many bathrooms they had and things like that. So you don't need to have data sets. You just need to go to the ground. This is what is very interesting about local data journalism, that you go to the ground, you ask people around. I like the example about the epidemiologist in London, because actually he went to the ground as well. He talked with people. So that's a great thing about local data journalists, is that you're there and other people can't access this data, and you can, even when the spreadsheet is not there, you know? With the surveys, for example. Yeah. Questions? No? Yes?
Why is Google doing it? Are you
why is Google putting all these tools at the... Well, first, obviously, Google is a data-driven company. Google is a IA-driven company, so it's just in its DNA, basically. And Google wants good journalism. I mean, it goes... You know, you can think it's in a very clear way. Yesterday, Olivia Ma, I don't know if you listened to her, she had a very nice talk, and she was really straightforward. I mean, if the business is going fine for the journalism, it's good for Google as well. Google has an interest in having good quality content and good quality journalism rather than disinformation, right?
To sell ads, right?
I don't know. In any case, I'm not talking in the name of Google. I have to say this clearly. I'm a teaching fellow. I'm not a Googler, to say it in a way, and I'm going back to France Presse in 2 months, so it will be a little bit pretentious of me to actually, and I don't have access to commercial secrets, so. No? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.